Which is interesting for him to say because he has really been a good soldier for the most part and doing whatever the team asks of him.
You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Yankees, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I'm Stacey Gotsoulias, and as you can see right next to me, my co-host Brian McKeon. Brian, how are we doing today?
Stacey, what's up? Middle of the week.
Middle of the week, and we have a lot to talk about, so let's get started. Don't forget, subscribe to Locked On Yankees on whichever podcasting platform you prefer. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube, like our videos, hit the bell so you're notified whenever our videos go live. On today's show, a couple of the Yankees' AL East opponents have some drama brewing in training camp. We'll talk about that. Joe Buck is calling baseball again. We'll tell you where and when. Carlos Rodon faced some live hitting. We'll tell you how he did and how everyone did against him. But first, Aaron Judge spoke to the media for the first time, and we're going to discuss what he's had to say about a myriad of subjects.
Yeah, a whole lot of nothing, as Aaron Judge is really good at doing. But the captain did speak to the media for the first time today at camp, just the new players, the Juan Soto stuff. So I guess let's break it down into a fine powder, Stacey.
Yeah. He said that he's definitely coming in hungry, if not hungrier than he's ever been coming into a season, which is always good to hear. And personally, I really hope he is, because poor Aaron Judge, there were so many goofy memes made for Valentine's Day of him dropping the ball and then people making that into a Valentine's Day card. And he's getting a lot of flack for that one play in the World Series, which is deserved to a point. But I think it's unfair that people around baseball are treating one of the best players in the last 25 years like that. And I like that he's coming in hungrier. I'd like to see an angry Aaron Judge, what he would do during a regular season and a playoff run.
You know, it's actually funny to, a player that, did he have his shortcomings in the postseason? Absolutely. But we do forget, because it's become a middling season for Aaron Judge. He hit 58 home runs last year, but because he didn't break the record, it's like, oh, well, I didn't get 60 again. So he still had an all-time great season last year. And I feel like we forget that a little bit, Stacey. It's great that he's coming in hungrier, if not hungrier, he said, than he's ever been coming into a season. But it is wild that a guy that hit 58 home runs has to come in with more motivation going into the year.
Yeah, but that's how it is around these parts. He said the new roster additions are exciting. He's particularly excited about playing with Bellinger, who can play 6 positions. Judge says plus Goldschmidt, who's been a top 10 hitter in the game for the last decade. That also makes him excited because he's a veteran. He knows how to play first. Not that Anthony Rizzo didn't, but, Anthony Rizzo had issues after that head injury. That head injury screwed with Anthony Rizzo's career. It's really sad to see. He's still not signed by anyone. The Yankees went out, got Goldschmidt for a year. I think it's a perfectly cromulent 1-year deal for Paul Goldschmidt. It didn't break the bank. It's not going to hurt the team. I think it's a good move. I agree with Judge, and I'm glad he agrees with me.
Yeah, I don't know what 6 positions Bellinger plays. I can only really think of 4, but that's what Judge said out loud, that he plays. He can fill 6 positions for us. It does look like, by the way, Judge did address saying that he thinks he'd feel more comfortable. This is like added into the press conference that he kind of threw in without being asked, because that's how the Yankees give information out nowadays. They give it out without being asked.
Yeah.
That he feels more comfortable in the 3-hole in the lineup, which is interesting for him to say, because he has really been a good soldier for the most part and doing whatever the team asks of him.
Yeah.
And for him to come out publicly and say that he prefers to be in 3-hole is a very interesting comment out of him that you don't see a lot. And it seems like they're more than likely going to attest to what he wants, specifically that out of the 3-hole last year, he had 58 homers. So how do you really argue with that? 58 homers, by the way, we keep reiterating this, but it's the truth. 58 homers after being awful in the first month of the season last year. Let's just, throw that in.
Right. He didn't start hitting till May.
Yeah, so he did succeed out of the 3-hole last year. Now, a lot of it has to do with Juan Soto in front of him, obviously. But it does feel like the lineup could potentially have Cody Bellinger in the 2-hole and Aaron Judge in the 3-hole, which I don't hate, honestly.
Yeah, especially if they do the left, right, left thing that you're expecting them to do. If they have someone in the leadoff spot who's a righty,
Yeah.
and then they put Bellinger, and then you have
Anthony
Judge,
Volpe.
and then yes, and then from fourth down, you can do something different. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I was watching MLB Hot Stove, and I think it was Anthony Castrovins is a writer, right? He
Okay.
was at the Guardians camp, but he was talking about the Yankees. He was talking about Judge, and he was talking about how he thinks this year is going to be a lot different for Judge without having Soto in front of him. And then I thought to myself, well, he hit 62 home runs without Juan Soto on the team. So I don't think it matters who's in front of Aaron Judge. I think what matters more is the person who hits in front of Aaron Judge.
Yeah.
What it does to them, because Juan Soto benefited greatly from hitting in front of, not that Juan Soto's a bad player, but he hit a career high in home runs hitting in front of Aaron Judge.
Yeah, I'll say this too, Stacey. You've seen that narrative come out of a lot of national media members claiming that Aaron Judge is gonna, he's the one that's gonna suffer faults out of Juan Soto leaving, and it's almost like we forget that Aaron Judge was a top 2 player in the game prior to Juan Soto getting there. They only played together for a year. So, and yeah, did he benefit off Juan Soto hitting in front of him? Yeah, just as much as Juan Soto benefited from Aaron Judge hitting behind him. There was a benefit on both sides, but Aaron Judge has put up better and these same numbers throughout his career with, it doesn't matter who's been in front of him, whether it's Brett Gardner or name other Yankee player that's been in front of him.
And it doesn't matter where he's batting either, because they had him batting leadoff during the year that he was trying for the record. So
when healthy, if you take paces of what his pace is, when healthy every single year, he has been an automatic 310, 55 homers, 130 RBIs every year. And I'm saying when healthy because if you take the pace that he's on in the years that he got hurt, he's still on pace for those numbers. So, and it's never mattered who's been in front of him, behind him, nothing. Aaron Judge does it on his own. So I don't attest to that. I don't think it makes any sense to me. And that narrative has been one that's been run with by the national media. And I just don't get where it comes from.
Mm-hmm. I found it very odd. I also found it very odd that they kept asking questions about the Yankees to all the different guys that they spoke to coming in from different places. They spoke to someone who was talking about Boston. They asked him about Cleveland. They asked him, and I just thought it was really funny. Judge said that he had really good talks with Hal Steinbrenner and Brian Cashman over the offseason about changes he'd like.
Yeah, I like that they're asking him. We did do that topic in the offseason of how much they actually ask Judge on a day-to-day basis. Apparently, Garrett Cole had a lot of conversations with those two also during the offseason. I like that. I think those players earn the right to be able to discuss those things. And it doesn't mean that Aaron Judge is pulling the triggers like LeBron James on trades and stuff like that. That's not what's going on. But asking the opinion of a guy who's one of the most respected players in the entire league right now of who he'd like to play with isn't always a bad thing. So I like this a lot. I will say this too, and we'll get into this next with Judge. The Soto comments, before we get into them, because they asked Aaron Judge his comment. If everyone's not aware, Juan Soto basically said in his first day of camp the reason why he chose the Mets over the Yankees is because he feels like he has a better chance to win with the Mets than he did with the Yankees. Fine, whatever, that's what he wants to say, cool. Aaron Judge basically had that same reaction that I had. But I want to know what your reaction to that is. Are you angry at Juan Soto for saying that? We'll get to Judge's reaction in a second. Are you angry at Juan Soto for saying that, or do you kind of just get it?
No, I'm not angry. I just think he's being silly.
Well, I'm asking you because a lot of Yankee fans, took this and ran with it and went crazy. Oh, how could he? They went to the World Series last year. Here's my thing. And listen, I'm all for sitting here and giving Juan Soto all the dirt in his face possible. But can we acknowledge for a second, Stacey, what do you want the guy to say? Like, do you really want him to sit there publicly in his first interaction with Mets fans and be like, yeah, I came here because they pay me the most? Like, obviously, he's not going to say
it would be very good. It would be amazing, but no, he's not going to do that. No,
exactly.
But
so
that's
obviously,
why
he's going to say, "I think I had a great chance of winning." And they asked him why he chose the Yankees, why he chose the Mets specifically over the Yankees. So what is he going to say? Of course, he's going to say a best chance to win, love the environment, yada yada, whatever that's out there in the media. He's not going to say because they paid me the most money. So Yankee fans, if you're one of them that's listening to this show that was freaking out because Juan Soto said he has a better chance to win, I don't know if Juan Soto meant that legitimately in his first interaction, more than that's the answer that he's been coached to give. And it's the right answer to give in this moment.
Yes, that's the answer he has to give.
And when Judge was asked about that comment that Juan Soto made, he basically said, that's his opinion. He can say what he wants. I definitely disagree with him. So Judge left it at that too, where, what's he going to say? And Judge also commented heavily on, for that kind of deal, how do you not leave? Which,
right.
It does feel wild now, looking back on what was it now 3 years ago on the Aaron Judge free agency year. Boy, did they get him at a discount. At the time, it didn't feel like one, but boy, is that a discount.
Yeah. Judge said he's excited for Soto, but the Yankees still added a lot, including former MVPs to the roster. It lengthens the roster, so he's not too concerned with losing him. Because I do feel like, losing Juan Soto is a big blow, but I think I feel like they upgraded it first. I think Goldschmidt's going to do better than Rizzo did. No offense to Anthony Rizzo, but I really feel like he's going to do a better job. And then if you think about the fact that Judge is going over into right field and Bellinger is playing center,
that's super key.
They're upgrading in right field because Judge can play defense better than Juan Soto.
Yeah, no, you're right. And it is the truth. You've been reiterating this all offseason, to your credit. Did you want Juan Soto to leave? No. Of course you wanted Juan Soto to stay. He's a generational talent. But there is a silver lining here where the amount of money saved on Juan Soto allowed them to go out and make these crazy moves. They're not signing Max Fried if they keep Juan Soto. They're also probably not getting. They might get Bellinger, but they're not getting Goldschmidt, or they might, or the other way around. They're not getting both. That's for sure. They're not getting Devin Williams with a chance to keep him back next year. There's a lot of moves they couldn't make if it weren't for getting Juan Soto. So did they want Soto back? Sure, but at the cost of what? I think they're a better overall roster right now than they would have been with Soto on this team. I just do.
Yep. All right. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button on our videos, hit the notifications so you know when our videos go up. You can also join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club. The link is in the description. You get text from us. You can text us questions, comments, reactions to Juan Soto's comments, because we got some of those in our Insiders Club. You can send reactions to trades and signings. We send out lineups during the season, roster moves, and breaking news, so you don't have to keep checking social media. There's a 14-day free trial. Coming up next, we'll discuss Carlos Rodon throwing live BP, how he did and how everyone did against him.
Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Check into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller for longer. Personally, I love the no shells variety. It's the perfect grab and go snack for busy days. Whether I'm snacking at my desk during work for the show or just need a quick protein boost, there's always those available for my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, then the in-shell options are a classic favorite. Wonderful Pistachios is a complete protein, providing all 9 essential amino acids. Whether you're running between meetings or dropping off the kids, Wonderful Pistachios are the snack that works as hard as you do. Get snackin' and get crackin' with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. And thanks again for making Locked On Yankees your first listen. Remember that every Friday is Fan Mail Friday. You can leave questions underneath the pinned comment on our videos Monday through Thursday, or you can join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club. Those fans get top priority during Fan Mail Friday. That link is in our description. So, Stacey, I did preface you with this before we started this segment because it did slightly tick me off, but we'll get into it anyway. Carlos Rodon comes out and throws BP on Monday. And he throws to 3 batters. It was Cody Bellinger, Jason Dominguez, and who was the third guy? It's skipping my mind right now. But he threw to 3 guys. And it has basically been made crazy news that Carlos Rodon gave up a home run to Bellinger and Jason Dominguez, who are considered top-tier players in the league, by the way.
Right.
We forget that Carlos Rodon, when he signed with the Yankees, is one of the top prize free agents that offseason. Signs with the Yankees, has had some really elite starts with the Yankees. Now, I certainly struggle with the Yankees, too. I'm not going to ignore that. But why do we look for every chance imaginable to pounce on Carlos Rodon when it's available? I mean,
that's how Yankee fans are. They look to pounce on him. They look to pounce on Giancarlo Stanton. You know, there are certain guys that just have bullets on their back.
the first chance we've had at seeing Carlos Rodon this season in spring training where, yeah, he's not throwing like it's the middle of May.
Right.
And,
He's
and
working.
he's
They're
fully stretched
working
out.
on things, guys. Come on.
Exactly. And he gives up a home run to Bellinger. He gives up a home run to Dominguez. And we freak out that same Rodon. It's day one workout of spring training. Let's relax a little bit on this. Plus, gave up 2 home runs to 2 really elite hitters in this league, Jason Dominguez. And the best point of this whole thing, and you added this to the rundown, because funny enough, the article that I took this information from, because they didn't allow cameras, they didn't film the Rodon stuff, which is weird to me in the 21st century. But regardless, the article that I read to find this information out conveniently left out that Carlos Rodon struck out the first 3 batters he faced, including Aaron Judge. That was the 3rd batter he faced. Did we just miss that part, or was it? I'm not going to put the writer on blast who wrote this article, but give me a break, Stacey. I mean, we conveniently
was it Randy Miller?
I'm not going to let that guy. Yes, but I'm not going to let that guy get given the public name of it. But still, I don't understand why you would omit the strikeout the side to start and then the 2 home runs afterwards, as if the strikeout the side didn't happen also. Are the 2 home runs great? No. There's also a chance that he struck out those 3 guys to start the inning, and then he wanted to start working on his breaking stuff, and he hung 2 over the plate that 2 really good power hitters got under and drove out of the park. It's just, give me a break with the slander on the guy. You want to do it in June when he gives up 8 runs in a game they need the stadium? Absolutely. All hands on deck, kill the guy. But right now, in February, give me a break.
It's as if people forget what spring training is for.
Yes.
They get angry during games if guys don't do well during the games. Yep. You know, if the Yankees don't do well during the grape, it doesn't matter how they do in the Grapefruit League. All I care about, and I've said this for the entire time that I've hosted this show, and I'm going to, as long as everyone stays healthy, comes out of camp healthy, that's all I care about. They can have an offer in the Grapefruit League. I wouldn't care as long as everyone comes out with all their limbs intact.
Yeah, I just don't get it. And there's no need to be going crazy on a guy. And of course, this is all written on a thing that wasn't filmed. It was literally a practice session for these guys to just get some at-bats against him. He was only going to face those 3 batters. He struck out Aaron Judge.
I thought it was filmed, though. I thought I saw Dominguez hit the home run off him.
The Dominguez thing was filmed, but they didn't film Rodon's whole session from behind Rodon. They just filmed from behind the batter's box.
Right.
So you really don't get a good sense on. It was really
like you don't. Yeah, right. Like you don't get. It's not like you're watching him from behind like a game where you could see where everything is and how. Right. All right. I get that. Yeah.
It was filmed like we're seeing batting highlights, which again is fine. I'm okay with that. I get it, but to intentionally not include in this article that he struck out the first 3 batters because you're looking for an angle to slam Rodon, it just makes no sense. And I don't get it. Why are we looking for every opportunity? I even get the pouncing on Stanton stuff a little more, and I don't agree with it before the season starts, of course, because he never gets hurt going into opening day. But you know what? Stanton's one of these guys that's always hurt. So you know what? People look for a chance to pounce him. I get where it's coming from. But the Rodon stuff, what are we doing here? He was not a disaster last year. The guy went over 15 games last year, had a good season, had good playoff starts for them. He was not an ultra disaster last year. He could have been better, sure. But to call him, to look for every chance to kill this guy, it's just not necessary, Stacey.
That's just a Yankee fan pastime. They do it all the time. So Bellinger hit the home run off Rodon, and I kind of like the idea of him being batting second.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I especially if you look at the year they had 2 years ago with the Cubs. You know, he hit over 300. He had a really high on base percentage. I don't hate that. I really don't.
And I'm actually going to enjoy seeing him hit into the short porch.
Yeah, no, with that lefty swing too. I mean, people forget the rookie year he had with the Dodgers where he had over 50 home runs. Guy's got legit power too. How about Aaron Boone though, mentioning it in his speaking today that Dom Smith, the former Met great and national great, is a candidate to make this roster as a DH. Thoughts?
Interesting.
Yeah, Boone likes to, throw a little extra sugar on the cake sometimes. Also stating that he doesn't necessarily think that Dom Smith needs to only be a DH. He could be playing the field too at points. I don't think you're going to see Dom Smith playing the field. I don't even know if you're going to see Dom Smith make the roster, to be quite honest with you. I think Boone's trying to give some guy confidence that's in his camp. I don't know why that's necessary, but I'd be stunned if Dom Smith, who hit 230 last year with 3 homers and 30 RBIs with the Nationals is going to make the Major League roster. That would be crazy.
Yeah, well, something bad would have had to happen.
Yeah, they're very desperate if that's the
that
case.
doesn't. Yeah. One quick thing before we go to the next segment. I just thought of it as you were speaking. Austin Wells coming out and saying that he's not hitting yet, and people panicking about this. Now, he's practicing catching, and he's doing running catches, and he's sliding and doing all this stuff. So if he were injured, I don't think he'd be doing that stuff.
Yeah, they'd specifically not have him out there catching.
Right, because people are panicking about this. And it's like, I saw a video of him. They did like 2 pop-ups in a row, and he had to run and catch both of them behind the plate, and he was perfectly fine. So
and
I think it's interesting that he was like, yeah, no, I don't. It was almost like, yeah, I don't feel like hitting yet. I'm not ramping it up yet. Like, I'll do it, but not yet.
And also, if you think that Austin Wells hasn't been in a batting cage all offseason, you're out of your mind, too. This is not the old days where he's showing up, hasn't swung a bat in 6 months.
Yeah.
He's probably been swinging a bat literally since the week after the World Series ended.
Again, like I've explained about 80 times since I did the video for MLB, spring training used to be for detox, literally, because these guys had nothing better to do in the winter. Like, they worked, but they were also drinking like crazy in the late 1800s. And that was much harder alcohol than people drink now. And they had to go to the hot springs in Arkansas to literally detox to get ready for the baseball season. And even as recently as 25 years ago, guys were still showing up to spring training, not in the best of shape, because they knew they had 6 weeks to get in shape. Now, guys are getting into their batting cages at home. They're going to their local batting cages if they're not one of the richer players, and they're starting their training literally in November.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not the same thing as it was. Yeah, things change, guys.
Yep, don't worry. I feel like we always have to tell people to calm down, and it's just so funny. Like, I don't want to seem condescending here. I'm being like your mom, which is kind of annoying because it's the same thing every year. People freak out about the same thing every year. And I have to tell you guys to stop freaking out.
Yeah, you're so right.
It's like,
it's funny though.
It's almost like that movie 50 First Dates where she forgets every day, because it's like every year you forget how baseball works. You forget how spring training works. You forget what they do during spring training. Just everyone, deep breaths. Zen baseball, okay? Don't worry about a thing until opening day. Just try and relax. That's all I'm saying.
We got a while to go, so
yeah,
let relax.
Yeah, coming up next, Joe Buck is returning to the baseball booth, and 2 of the Yankees' AL East opponents have some drama brewing at their camps. We'll tell you about all of it next.
In sports, having a winning strategy is everything. So the best teams make it to the Super Bowl, the World Series, and the Olympics. And the same goes for life. Having a strategy like life insurance from SelectQuote can help protect your financial legacy and keep your family's future secure. SelectQuote makes it easy to find the perfect life insurance policy. As one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, they've helped over 2 million customers find $700 billion in coverage since 1985. Unlike other brokers that offer one-size-fits-all policies, their licensed agents tailor coverage to fit your unique needs. If you're in good health, you might even qualify for same-day coverage of up to $5 million. No medical exams required. And it's more affordable than you think. You can get up to $1 million in coverage for as little as $20 a month. Get the right life insurance for you for less at SelectQuote.com/lockedon. Go to SelectQuote.com/lockedon today to get started. At SelectQuote.com/lockedon. SelectQuote. They shop, you save. So, Stacey, exciting news from the baseball nerd in me earlier today before we get into the really cool news. Joe Buck is returning to the booth for opening day. Yankees versus Brewers in the Bronx. He did state that it being the Yankees was a draw for him to come back into the booth, and he chose Joe Girardi and Bill Schroeder as his partners for the game. He did say it is a one-off. He will not be returning full-time to baseball, but it is really cool because I don't think Joe Buck hates my team. I really like Joe Buck as an announcer. I think he's one of the all-time great announcers, so I'm really glad that he's returning.
About 90% of Yankee fans would disagree with you.
Yeah, that's true, but I don't think that I'm wrong. I think Joe Buck's a fantastic Hall of Fame-worthy announcer.
I used to always make fun of Joe Buck. I used to make fun of Tim McCarver. I was always like, one of those people that just couldn't stand either one of them. And then Joe Buck and I had a really cool exchange on Twitter 14 years ago. And ever since then, I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to say a bad thing about Joe Buck anymore.
Well, I will say a bad
he
thing.
wished me luck because I was going on a job interview. And he's
that's really nice, actually. Wow.
He's like, Stay Scotts, you're going to kill it. I'm like, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Really damn cool.
Yeah.
One guy that's not getting the same love that Joe Buck's gonna get, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He shows up to camp where he's not able to get an extension done with the Blue Jays and basically says, yeah, I'm hitting free agency. Can't wait. What a wild turn of events to show up and say this kind of thing. And just to start off the year where the Blue Jays had so much trouble in free agency this year and basically started off with, it wasn't bad enough that none of the stars chose to go to Toronto. Now their own star wants to leave. I mean, can it get worse in Toronto?
Well, it's their fault because I'm looking at the ESPN article because I didn't get it up fast enough on the rundown. I'm looking at my phone. I apologize to the people watching me on YouTube, but it said, first baseman Vladimir Guerrero, Toronto Blue Jays failed to come to terms on a contract extension by his Monday night deadline. He gave them a deadline for Monday night, which paves the way for the 25-year-old star to hit free agency in November. Quote, they have their numbers, I have my numbers. And then when asked if the team was close to what Guerrero was asking, Guerrero said no. And then general manager Russ Atkins, meanwhile, said that the Blue Jays offers were very, very aggressive. So there is definitely a chasm where Vlad thinks one thing and the GM's like, no, our offers were great. And Vlad's like, no, they weren't.
Yeah, I am a believer going into the offseason next year that Vlad is going to get significantly less than he thinks he's going to get.
I think so too.
It's been reported wildly since Vlad's really been in the league that there is an ego problem there. And we forget that Vlad had a struggling year about 2 years ago where no one even acknowledges that he had a down year. Whatever.
Oh, yeah, he didn't hit his first home run at home until like mid-June. Something crazy like that.
We tend to forget that kind of stuff because and here's the problem. A guy wins a home run derby and he's a son of a former, great player. And we tend to elevate him a little too quickly. And that's what happened with Vlad Guerrero Jr. Vlad Guerrero Jr., I legitimately believe in his head thinks he's getting Juan Soto's contract. I actually think that. I think he thinks he's getting Juan Soto's deal or maybe above Juan Soto's deal. Truth be told, Stacey, he's not going to sniff that. Now, he's probably going to go over Aaron Judge's deal, and he's probably going to get over $400 million, especially the fact that he's going to be 26 years old as a free agent. So I'll agree with that. But, Stacey, I actually fully believe the Blue Jays did give a competitive offer here, and probably I wouldn't be shocked when these numbers become public because you bet your bottom the Blue Jays are going to allow these numbers to become public at some point. I'll bet you that whatever offer they made here, I would not be the least surprised if the offer they gave right now winds up being more than he actually winds up signing for.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned the Soto deal because the last quote in this ESPN article says, Soto's deal had nothing to do with my decision at all, Guerrero said. Even before that, I knew my value. I knew my number. I would love to know what the number is that he is thinking in his head. I agree with you that there is a bit of a problem with his ego. I think that, I don't know, it feels like him and Alek Manoah were both the same kind of way where they talked a lot of stuff, and Vlad could back it up a bit where Manoah just fell off completely.
Yeah, and this is a guy that's shown up to camp multiple years out of shape, overweight. That's happened. He's, again, responded with winning home run derbies, and he's a great player. No one's arguing that, but he is not Juan Soto. He's not close. And from people that I've spoken to that are pretty connected in the league, they all believe that Vlad Guerrero Jr. thinks that his contract starts with an 8. And, again, a player's ego can tell himself that, and he can tell himself that that's his value and his worth, and that's all good and well. But from all accounts, the Blue Jays think his number starts with a 5, which is still a very generous offer. And again, I wouldn't be shocked at this point, Stacey, if the offer and they're going to let it be public. When they get the inkling that he's going to sign for less, they're going to make it public that, hey, we were the highest bidder originally last offseason, and he turned us down. I think Vlad Guerrero Jr. is going to sign for somewhere in the 4s, which is still a great deal. I don't think he's going to sign for 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 that he thinks. He's not going to go over the Juan Soto contract. There's no chance in that, in my opinion.
Quickly, before we end the show, the other opponent that's having a bit of a drama issue, I guess you can say, Rafael Devers basically coming out and saying, no, I'm not playing another position besides third base.
Yeah, so it's weird. They just signed Alex Bregman. Now, it's reported that Bregman's going to move positions, likely to second, I guess, at this point is where he's going to go. Now, what's funny about the whole thing is it is reported that the Red Sox are going to be very, very aggressive after Vlad Guerrero Jr. next offseason. Apparently, them and the Mets. Now, the Heyman report came out that apparently the Yankees are also going to be aggressive. That feels like Guerrero's agent throwing in there. Oh, yeah. The Yankees are super interested, too, just to get the interest up, too. I'm sure the Dodgers will be really interested next offseason, too. We'll see that report when the Yankees and Dodgers won't put a bid in. So let's cool it on that. But I do think the two top bidders are going to be the Mets and the Red Sox next year, and it's going to be a bidding war between them for Vlad Guerrero Jr. What I find interesting about that is it's very easy. Rafael Devers to say that comment now going into next offseason. I wonder, Stacey, what he says if they go after Vlad Guerrero Jr. and sign Vlad Guerrero Jr. Because Rafael Devers is on a very generous contract in Boston.
Yeah.
They got him early, but it's a very generous contract. I wonder what happens when they bring in Vlad Guerrero Jr. for $450 million and they say, hey, Devers, you're going to first.
Yeah.
Let's see if he has the same bravado and confidence in that press conference that he did in this press conference this offseason. It's just a little interesting where that's going from, because I don't think that him saying he's not moving positions is going to affect what the Red Sox do whatsoever. They're still going to go after their guy, and they're going to let Vlad Guerrero Jr., who will be the $400 million man, they're going to let him play where he wants to play. That's what's going to wind up happening here.
Yep. Yeah, I just find it interesting, all this stuff happening. This is why I love spring training, because so many things like that come out. And then my brother told me an interesting stat about another AL team that we'll just quickly mention before we end. The Nationals have had 19 third basemen since Anthony Rendon left, and the Angels have had to play 28 first basemen since he signed with them.
What a brutal contract. I mean, it's as bad. It's as bad. What's worse, that one or the Deshaun Watson contract? I can't tell. Probably Deshaun Watson, because he's a filthy disgrace for a human being, but both of them just horrendous contracts. It is funny when teams do stuff like that. Wow. Yeah.
So I thought we'd end on that note. So thank you for making Locked On Yankees your first listen today. For your second listen, you can find Locked On MLB. Baseball guru Sully brings you a daily blend of humor and baseball, keeping you updated on every rumor and story throughout the season. You can find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Coming up later this week, as you already know, Fan Mail Friday. Get those questions in, leave them below the pinned comment underneath this video. So that'll do it for this edition of Locked On Yankees. I'm Stacey Gotsoulias.
And I'm Brian McKeon. We'll catch you guys tomorrow.